Hey, new Era Sens fans, what's going on? This is Jacob Billington and Jack here, and we're doing another post-game summary. Last night was January 23rd. We lost again to Winnipeg 6-3. It was a much better game until we fell apart in the third again. But yeah, definitely a much better game. What do you think?
I thought first two periods were great, and it reminded me of that first game against Winnipeg, but the third period reminded me of the second game and how terrible that was. So happy to move on from this series.
Yeah, it's good to be getting something fresh other than Winnipeg. They've had our number for the last couple games. And, I mean, right away you saw Derek Stepan and Connor Brown making good plays on that second line. And then Paul joining in later. That was a good second line. And the whole team played pretty well throughout the whole game, really. So,
yeah, I thought that the second period especially, they struggled in the last games with in the second game there with Hellebuck, like scoring on him.
Yeah.
And I feel like this game they got a couple easy ones by him, but you could see what it does to the confidence, especially getting Dadonov and Tkachuk on the board.
Yeah.
That's huge. You love it when your big dogs are performing.
Yeah, and it's really good to see Dadonov get his first goal, and we'll get into that a little later when we go through the periods. But yeah, it was overall a pretty good effort from everybody, even though it was a 6-3 game. Marcus Hogberg played great in his debut for the season.
Yep.
So let's get right into the first period, I guess. Like I said, first thing I noticed right away was Connor Brown and Derek Stepan. They were clicking right away. They played good on that second line throughout pretty much the whole game. Derek Stepan, we'll get into him a little later. But Drake Batherson on that first line too, like he looked so good. He was driving plays to the net, getting open for a shot, and him and Josh Norris are playing really well, and you have Brady Tkachuk sitting in front of the net doing everything else. So
Batherson is looking like he, for me, like personally, he was kind of like always the forgotten prospect. I feel like people just kind of, with all the other guys that were coming up, but he had a great year last year in Belleville, and he was pretty good when he came up with Ottawa because I think he played a good amount of games. But he looks fantastic. He's so much bigger and stronger, and like the one thing I want for him though is just if he had a better shot, like if he could just kind of have that weapon too, especially on the power play. I feel like the sky's the limit for him. But I'm really happy watching him. Exciting.
Yeah, and like I'm from Nova Scotia, and Drake Batherson was here for a little bit with a billet family, and he was skating with Sidney Crosby this summer. He was skating with, I think, Brad Marchand as well, all from Halifax, and Nathan McKinnon. I don't think McKinnon was there as much this summer, though. And yeah, he's looking very good. He's good at positioning. He's working on his shot still, but his positioning to put himself into a good shooting position is excellent.
Is he not like he's like Mark Stone? I keep seeing all these little plays he's making with his stick, and it just reminds me so much of him, and like a bit of a sour taste in my mouth because it's like you miss Stone obviously, but man, he's really coming into his own so far.
Yeah, and he's got the vision of an elite NHL player.
Yeah,
he's always knowing where to go. And then after that, I noticed Wolanin. He made a pretty rough defensive play. He ended up going to made a bobble, and it turned into a breakaway for, I don't remember who it was, somebody on Winnipeg, and he made a really nice defensive play after that to get the puck back off that breakaway and into the corner. Yeah, and then goes right down the ice and almost scores.
The good thing about Wolanin is he's really good at jumping up in the rush too. So when I noticed that because he hasn't played, right, so you kind of do a double take. You're like, oh, who's that skating? And then you realize it's him. Especially he missed the entire last season, right? So
yeah, he got injured at the beginning of last season.
It's been a while since we've seen him.
Yeah.
But I think he looks great, and hopefully he's still in the lineup. I think he did enough to stay in last time.
Yeah, I think he earned a spot last night, and with him we haven't seen him being an offensive defenseman in this league yet. That's what he comes with. He comes with a very good offensive skill set. But with him, Nikita Zaitsev playing incredible hockey, and it feels wrong to say. Like, I know it's so early in the season, but Nikita Zaitsev is playing very good hockey, and he demonstrated that last night. And
I'm just waiting for him to make a mistake, and I keep saying, when he goes back with the puck and he's, regrouping, and I'm waiting for that play where we're like, okay, there's Zaitsev. There's what we're used to. But I'm even thinking back to last year. I don't think he was that bad. I remember people saying, Like, his advanced stats weren't great, but he was at last season, at least, he was an upgrade over CC, which is all the Sens cared about, right? And all anyone else cared about. But this year, now that CC's gone from the Leafs, it feels like we're entering that next stage of the trade. And I think that he's looked fantastic. No one could have guessed this would have happened. And it changes the complete dynamic of that blue line for me.
It really does. And to have, and I mentioned this last time, to have those two different offensive people playing very different games, and then you add Wolanin in with the way he played last night, that's a pretty good defensive core, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that works.
A lot of issues that we need to solve in it, but other than that, like it's solid.
Yep, for sure.
After that, it was a tough goal by Hogberg that he let in. It was the whole penalty kill wasn't doing very good. All four players on the ice at one point were in the corner, leaving everybody wide open in front. So that you can't put that on Hogberg. So that's not much else to say about that, I don't think.
The penalty kill, it was a power play goal, the first one for the Jets, right? Or was it not? Okay,
it was power play.
They were 0 for 7. Like the Sens PK was 7 for 7. That was the one positive for Thursday.
Yeah,
you had to know that they were going to cash in on the power play. Like they made use of it later in the game as well. But
of course,
especially with all those weapons, they were kind of doing what the Sens power play was doing before. They were just whipping it around, and when that happens, they're going to score eventually. It's just tough.
Yeah, I actually see a comment here from J Shimizu 3. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he wants to know our thoughts on Artem Zub. I think that he's getting a chance within the next 6 games. DJ Smith said that, and he said that about Wolanin, and look how Wolanin did last night. I think Zub's going to find a good spot on this team. I'm not sure who it's going to be with. I see him starting on the bottom pair with Wolanin, I'd say.
Yeah,
but I think he can work his way up this roster, I think.
I've never even watched him play, so I don't know what he brings. I don't know what he all I know is he shoots right, and they signed him this offseason, honestly. So it'd be good to it's nice that they have so many options, especially with the taxi squad. They're able to just throw a bunch of people in when they want to and rotate in. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the other players that they've got.
Yeah, and we've only seen about half the players that could have made this team by now.
Exactly, yeah.
We have so many people coming up that are just on that fringe of, I'm not quite going to step into the NHL yet, but I'm too good for the AHL. Yeah.
And to this point, too, you start thinking, why do they have so many players? And, there's only been, well, now 2, but 1 injury where there's been a guy out of the lineup, and that's Stützle. So Paquette went down last game. Who knows what he's up to? But you got to plan ahead. So I feel like a lot of these guys are going to get chances, especially on a road trip. People get injured, and it's the way it goes. Yeah.
Moving on to the second period here. Watson and Stefan, their physical play is so much more than I anticipated. I know Watson's coming in to fight and to protect Brady Tkachuk so he can stay out of the box and get some more points and more ice time and whatnot. But they're playing more than just that role. Austin Watson has shown some pretty good speed, good with his stick. He got an assist last night and a couple shots actually, and led the team with 4 hits. He's doing exactly what we want from him. And Stefan, again, we'll get into him in the third period, but Stefan's playing good hockey overall. He's nothing special, but he's there.
Yeah, I really like Watson, what he brings, and I know people would rather see other players play on the fourth line there, but I really like he's fast. He's not useless when he has the puck. He just and he lays hits and he's punishing, and I think it's a tired philosophy, but it's important still. I think I really like him in that spot. He's not being overutilized. He's a good penalty killer too. So and Stepan, we'll get into him a bit later. I got some thoughts on him.
And then after that, Dadonov scored his goal. He looked pretty shaken up afterwards, but he was on the power play right afterwards, so it's all right. He took quite the tumble. He got tripped up going in, had the delayed penalty, and then poked it through the legs of Hellebuck and tripped over the side of the net into the boards if you missed it.
Squeaks one in, he squeaked it in, and then, just for good measure, slam your face into the dashboard.
And it's not what I expected out of our big fish in free agency for a sniper, for that to be his first goal.
No.
But I'll take it.
Yeah, and I'm sure he will too. That's all you need. just sometimes to get your legs back and get your mojo back. Maybe that'll help him get going.
Yeah. And then, right after that led to another power play. They were going to get the trip, but we scored, and then they got another power play. So Artem Anisimov, for some reason, was out there on the power play, but he looked good. I didn't agree with seeing him step onto the ice, but he looked good while he was on the ice. And Wolanin was on the first power play unit. Our power play was pretty good. I don't think we capitalized on it, but overall, I think it was a pretty good power play all game.
I think Anisimov, we can get into the next goals later, but his line ends up scoring twice, right? I think he was centering that line.
Yeah.
With Paul and Dadanov. So or it might have been moving around a bit, but
I think Paul was playing with Tierney and Brown last night.
Okay, yeah.
Or Stefan. I don't know.
Either way, he wasn't. He had a good second period, I think, and the thing with Anisimov is, I don't know how many goals he had last year, but he was pretty good. I thought he was pretty great last year.
Yeah.
Potted some nice goals. So, he doesn't have legs this year, and it's pretty obvious, which is painful to watch. But yeah.
Yeah, and hearing him doing so good in camp, and then this is what we're seeing. Like, he was our biggest star in camp, apparently.
Yeah.
But
and Colin White.
Yeah, and Colin White, who played 2 games now.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all I noticed in that second period. Brady scored his very Brady-like goal, just spinning fire at the net. Right.
Yeah, that was good. I liked that. Those are the kind of goals he needs. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
And even Mike Riley looked solid in that second period, jumping up into the play and throwing the body in the neutral zone.
Yeah,
he was doing a lot of transitional stuff last night.
I like his offensive, like when he has the puck. I find he's usually pretty good, but it's the classic, defensive game away from the puck for all these offensive defensemen. Which on the left side last night, all 3 left-handed defensemen were offensive-minded people or players. So there's got to be a balance, and that's why having Chabot, Wolanin, and Riley all in the lineup is difficult. I find. And last night, I think the third period kind of showed that too.
Yeah, and then adding Brandstrom into that mix, like where's he going to fit?
Right.
Like, we just have such a cluster of everything going on the back end right now.
Yeah, and they're all lefties.
Yeah, and they're all lefties.
There doesn't, other than Bernard Docker, maybe there doesn't appear to be a long-term option on the right side.
Yeah.
So
I think Sanderson can play both, and Brandstrom can play both.
I noticed they had Sanderson playing the right at UND the other night.
Yeah, with Clevin.
So that would ideal. I think top 4 would be Chabot, JBD, and then Brandstrom and Sanderson for the future, and that's fun to think about. And you think, it's the future, but that could literally be next season.
It could be next season.
All these guys could be signed
coming over.
Yeah. So
wow.
That's fun. That's the light at the end of the tunnel for me. That's nice to think about.
And like to have guys like Pinto coming up, and I know this is really off topic, but Pinto is one of my favorite prospects that we have.
Me too. I really like him. Well, it's not even off topic because Pinto is great at faceoffs, and this team struggles to win faceoffs.
Yeah, a lot.
And that's a big thing for young players all the time. I don't know if I always notice. So the top line, I think, struggles to get minutes because they don't get thrown out for those faceoffs.
Yeah.
The only faceoff they'll throw them out for is offensive zone. Because Norris, I guess, I don't know how great I don't have his number up here, but I'm assuming he hasn't been great in the circle.
Yeah, he's been good enough.
Yeah.
You're not going to throw him out there, need the tying goal with 2 minutes left. He's not going to take that faceoff for you yet.
Right.
I think he will, but not yet.
Yeah.
And other than that, the faceoffs are a huge problem with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we see guys that don't know how to take the faceoffs. Like Brady Tkachuk isn't a centerman, obviously.
No.
I think he went 75% on the faceoff, so he won 3 of 4 last night.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't have to have those guys going in every draw.
No, and that's what I think Pinto brings, and that'll be fun to watch. And I feel like he's going to get some games at the end of the season, but that's a big problem right now.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get kind of like a little test run just to see what we have right now.
Just a little tease at the end of the season.
So I guess we should move on to the third period. I really don't have much to say about this period. It was.
So I've got something to point out just before the third period recap starts. So on Tuesday, the first game, Sens were up 3-2 going into the third period, and in that intermission, they interviewed Mark Scheifele on the Sens broadcast too. They just interviewed Scheifele because it's I don't know why, but and then he was I remember like he's really good interview and he's great to listen to. He gives good answers, and he was like, yeah, we just got to do this, but like just standard. But then they come back and then they win the game.
Yeah.
Last night, second intermission, they interviewed Mark Scheifele. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. And people on Twitter are like, same position as last time, 3-2 going into the third. Let's see what they can do. And lo and behold, they blow it.
Yeah.
And this time was even worse, I find.
Yeah. And I think it was even worse because they made it was a close game. Even when they scored those 3 goals in the last 3 minutes or whatever it was a close game up until then.
Yeah, agreed.
They had a lot more shots than us, but overall, we played a pretty solid game and we kept up. So
it was kind of, it felt like a classic, we need to sit back and not push for another goal, which is a good idea, except when you're sitting back, especially this team, the Sens, when they sit back, they're even worse.
Yeah, so like they didn't know what they were doing. Like, no. Obviously they went and they played that game. They defended.
Yeah.
It didn't work for them.
Yeah, this isn't a team that should sit back and defend. They need to be attacking, and it sucks. It was really tough to watch.
It was.
Yeah, very painful.
The only positives I really have out of that third period was Brady Tkachuk. He's just making plays everywhere that he can.
Yeah,
staying in front of the net, picking up any rebound, and it just the whole period felt like a penalty kill.
He's. I love the way like he doesn't just like hit people. He kind of he like. He hits them, but to separate the man from the puck, which is what you're taught like 101 when you're doing certain body checking, and it's just textbook hits from him all around all the time. It's great. Yeah,
and he's always going for the puck. He's not going to make that big open ice hit. He's always going for the puck.
Exactly.
He has such an offensive mind, and he can just run through anybody.
I counted at least like maybe 5 times last night where he'd go in, lay a big hit on the forecheck. Or even, it's not even the hit, but just the fact that they know that he's coming, because that's what happens when he gets older, right? People start to know who he is and his reputation, especially in this division. So he's coming down on them, and then they panic, and then Norris or Batherson will come pick it up, and then they get an offensive zone shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that. It's you can't write it up any better.
And then he plugs himself in front of the net, and then Batherson opens himself, and Norris gives it to somebody, and
exactly
like that line's working so well.
I find they're working so well, but they're just tapping the surface. Like they've dominated games, but they haven't been out there on the score sheet necessarily. Batherson doesn't have a goal yet, right? It'll come, and I feel like they're just like once it comes, like the floodgates will open.
It will, and I mean Brady's got 4 points in 5 games now. I think maybe it's 5 and 5, 2 goals, 3 assists.
He had the 3 points in that Toronto game.
Yeah.
So he's right up there.
And it's not showing much, but you also have to remember Connor Brown led our team in ice time last night with 19 minutes.
Second night in a row. Yeah.
So they're not playing 22 minutes a game like you see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Austin Matthews. Like they're just playing the whole team. As
frustrating as that is, it's not like Connor Brown and Nick Paul and Tierney are like incompetent. That's actually been a really good line.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they were split up a little bit for last game, but the DJ needs, and this is tired because everyone's saying it, he needs to play the kids, and it's not just the people who are not in the lineup. That top line needs to be out there more often.
I totally agree.
And even if it's not the top line, they need to throw out some combination of like Batherson or Tkachuk should be on the ice a lot more than they are. And last game I was saying, it's because they took so many penalties. Well, they didn't take that many this time.
Exactly.
So there isn't really and I think it'll come at some point this season, he'll start to rely on them a lot more. But it's frustrating to watch because you know that when they're out there, they're going to have the puck on their stick.
Exactly, and they're good at what they do.
Exactly.
Yes, they're young. I think it's the youngest line in the NHL at the moment.
Yeah.
21, 21, and 22.
Yep.
But you got to put the pressure on them. Put them out there for that final 2 minutes protecting the lead.
Yep.
Even if they get scored on, you got to put the pressure on them or they're not going to learn it.
And it's to the point, too, where I understand the philosophy. Like, you don't want to put your kids out there because even if they give you the best chance to win, like history shows that young players make more mistakes probably than older guys because they haven't been in those situations before or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't get put in those situations without having been put in those situations, right? It's kind of like you need it to happen once so that you know what to do. And if they were winning games by closing it out with these veteran guys, sure, like by all means, but they've lost 4 in a row, right? It's not like we're racking up the points here. So
yeah, something's got to change.
Exactly.
And it's got to change quick if we want to stay competitive because the division's already taken off.
It's slipping away, and I think this series against Vancouver is huge because they're also slipping.
Yeah.
It's huge for both teams, actually. So if you can steal a couple points here from them, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I mean, that's all I have for the third period and the game in general. Do you have anything else to
add? Not really, to be honest. Just, yeah.
All right, so who are your 3 stars of the night?
I've got – it's tough again. I want to say almost the same people I had last time. I'll go I'll give Hogberg 3rd star because in the third period, especially, he made he did this last season too. He makes a lot of highlight reel saves.
He does.
And I don't know what it is. He's athletic and he's big, but he kind of reminds me of Robin Leonard a little bit. Not just
and that's what I was going to say. Big body.
Yeah, it's just the way he kind of composes himself. Maybe not as fiery, but so I liked him a lot. He had 32 saves, I think.
Yeah.
That's all. If you ask for your goalie to make more than 30 saves, that's not realistic, right? So that's a good night for him.
And there were a lot of tough saves in there.
Yeah, exactly. And that Stastny goal on the power play, they did that exact same play before, and he hits the post, right? And then they ring it back around to him, and he didn't fan on that shot. That was placed perfectly. He just right in the 5-hole. It was a cheeky play, but it was so smart, and
it was a really nice play.
Right.
You can't take that and say that Hogberg let in a goal. You can say the Jets made a beautiful play and scored.
That's a beautiful play, and that's just shooter beating goalie. Not like he should have had. He probably should have had it, but that's just it's a psychological thing.
Exactly.
So I got Hogberg as my 3rd star. I'll go 2nd star. I'll go with I'm gonna go with Wolanin. I like the way he was skating around. I didn't necessarily like the 3rd, but that's again because they were sitting back, so he wasn't having an opportunity. But the way he moves the puck is just it's irreplaceable, right? And that's shown by. And I haven't hated what Coburn's done, but I think that Wolanin needs to stay for an extended period here.
More of a prove me what you're gonna do.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my 1st star, I'm gonna go with Nick Paul.
Yep.
He had a goal and an assist, and the assist was that play to Dadonov. It was perfect, right?
It was.
A little tuck on the boards, and he's literally everyone on the ice is moving one way, and then Paul just dashes it to Dadonov, who's coming full speed the other way, and it just catches everyone off guard, and that leads to the first goal. So I just every game I feel like Twitter explodes. They're just Nick Paul, and both my parents too are who's this number 13 guy? He's great, and it's crazy to me that they got him for Jason Spezza. I find that so funny.
That was so long ago.
2014.
Yeah,
that's how long ago it was, and it's crazy that he's still around. And good for him though. It's great.
Yeah, and this is a tough system to work your way through. There was a lot of competition ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I look at a guy like Parker Kelly and compare him to Nick Paul because nobody's really looking at Parker Kelly as a superstar, going to make the NHL and be a top 6 forward. But he's shown that he can be a good player.
Yeah, and I think he won hardest worker at camp to the 2nd year in a row, right?
He did.
And Dorion was saying this kid's a part of our future. He was raving about him. So I love players like that because I was kind of like that myself. I just kind of when I played, I was a grinder.
Yeah.
Didn't rack up the points, but I just appreciate those guys so much. So, yeah, good for Nick Paul.
Yeah. All right. So I'll give my 3 stars here, and we'll wrap this up. So
All right.
I think my 3rd star. It's really tough because there's a lot of them.
Mhm.
I think, and I'm gonna. This is hard. I'm gonna give it to Zaitsev. I was gonna give it to Hogberg, but I don't want to. I don't know. You already talked about him, so I'm gonna be a little unique with this one. I'm gonna give it to Zaitsev because he didn't get a point, but he looked really good offensively. He made some really nice defensive plays, as did a lot of our defense. They made some nice plays, not a lot of them, but the ones that they did are nice. For my 2nd star, I got to go Brady. He looked really good, making a lot of offensive drives. Zone entries was huge for him.
Yes.
Plus, you got the goal on top of that. So, and 1st star, I got to go Nick Paul. I can't not give it to Nick Paul. Nick Paul's been our best player all season.
Yep. He honestly he has. He's been the star so far. We're now over a week into the season for the Sens, and that's what a week for Nick Paul right
I know.
there.
And I think I saw Chris Johnson tweet today. He said, "How come every time I look at the Ottawa Senators playing, Nick Paul is the best player on the ice?"
Exactly. Yeah, he's a difference maker, and that's all. If that's a guy playing on your 3rd line, that's perfect, and he can move up and down. Right. That's one of those players who can just go. He's kind of what he reminds me a lot of Zach Hyman on the Leafs. I feel like he's a good complementary piece. He can play with top guys if he wants to.
Yeah.
I think it was Derek Lee. I want to say it was him who pointed it out. Pointed out that they should put him with Stützle when he comes back. I feel like that'd be a good combination because they can both really skate. And I've been saying Stützle needs people who can skate with him, and I don't think Stepan is that right now. Anyways, and we didn't even get into Stepan. We didn't talk about.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a tough penalty. Just especially after they killed one off right before it, and now listen. Look, I'm not going to sit here and point the finger and be like, "Oh, that's a terrible play." What a bonehead mistake. Obviously, it's a mistake, but it was the right play to make. Like off the glass in that situation was perfect play. He was gonna go get it, and it just flipped up on him and goes out of play. If he was in the corner and panicking and threw it out of play, then it's like, okay, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, but.
Yeah, he was up at the blue line. Like it's not like he was
he was right there. Oh, yeah.
It was hard to watch. And it felt good to see him on that Zoom call afterwards and admit it. He said, "I'm a veteran player on this team. This is my role on this team. I can't take that penalty."
Yeah, that was good. It was good for him to own up to it. And I feel like he said the right things, but man, that's just such a backbreaker. And it's even worse because they had a couple shifts after that penalty and then before his penalty, and they were starting to get momentum back. They were starting to get the momentum back, and I don't want to say that's the TSN turning point, but that's
and it's hard for it to be the turning point with such little time left, but it really was. Like
it was less than 5 minutes. Yeah. It was under 6 minutes or something. So
I look at it the same way as the Knights and Sharks when Pavelski got knocked down, and everybody's like, "Oh, the refs made a bad call and lost them the series." Well, no, they didn't. They let in 4 goals on a power play.
Right, like you got to stop the bleeding at some point.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily blame Stepan for last night. Although it would have put us in a little bit of a different situation at the end of that game. I think we lost that game.
They did, yeah. So you hate to see it. It's one of those things that you just got to shake off, I guess, and it's one of the growing pains that they've been preaching that are going to happen this season. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all we have for this game. Thank you everybody for joining us. And yeah, we can have this on YouTube if you want to rewatch it, or if you missed this, make sure you follow and subscribe, and thank you very much.